The end of World War I left nations broken and bitter. Peace treaties tried to rebuild order, but beneath the surface, anger, humiliation, and economic struggle created fertile ground for another, even more devastating conflict. Waiting to rise from unresolved wounds, the harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles placed heavy burdens on Germany. Its economy weakened, its pride shattered, and within that suffering, a desire for revenge slowly grew, shaping a dangerous mindset that would later fuel aggressive ambition. Out of chaos emerged Adolf Hitler, a man who understood anger and used it as a weapon, promising strength, unity, and restoration of pride. His words ignited hope in some fiery voters and began transforming a struggling nation into a force preparing for war. Germany began rebuilding its military power in defiance of restrictions. Factories produced weapons, soldiers trained in secret and then openly, and the world watched with concern. Yet hesitation and fear of another war allowed this rise to continue unchecked. Hitler moved beyond words, taking control of neighboring regions. First Austria, then parts of Czechoslovakia. Each step tested the world's response, and each time, limited resistance encouraged further expansion, proving that unchecked aggression only grows stronger with silence. Leaders in Britain and France chose appeasement, hoping to avoid conflict by allowing limited demands, believing peace could be preserved through compromise. But this approach underestimated ambition, turning concessions into opportunities that pushed Europe closer to inevitable war. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, a decisive and aggressive act that could no longer be ignored. And within days, Britain and France declared war, marking the official beginning of World War II. Germany introduced Blitzkrieg, a fast and overwhelming style of warfare, combining air power and rapid ground attacks. Nations fell quickly under its force, and the speed of destruction shocked the world, proving that modern war had become faster and far more devastating. Country after country collapsed under German advance. Poland, France, and others. Resistance struggled to keep pace, and soon much of Europe stood under occupation, leaving only a few nations to stand against a growing and powerful empire. With much of Europe under threat, Britain stood firm, refusing to surrender, enduring relentless bombing during the Battle of Britain, where courage and resilience prevented invasion, proving that determination could resist even the most powerful forces. In 1941, Adolf Hitler turned his forces toward the Soviet Union, launching a massive invasion driven by ambition and ideology. The scale was immense, but the harsh land and fierce resistance began to slow the unstoppable advance. The Soviet Union refused to fall. Its people endured unimaginable hardship. Cities burned, yet resistance hardened, and as winter arrived, the invading army faced conditions it was not prepared to survive, shifting momentum slowly but decisively. Far from Europe, tension was rising in the Pacific. Imperial ambitions clashed, and the conflict expanded into new territories, turning a regional war into a truly global struggle that would soon involve continents and oceans alike. On December 7th, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, destroying ships and human lives in a sudden strike. And this moment forced the United States into the war, changing its scale forever, with fresh resources and determination. The United States joined the Allies, bringing industrial strength and manpower. Its entry energized the fight and transformed the balance. As a new, powerful force stepped onto the global battlefield, battles raged across islands and seas, each fought with intensity, where survival depended on control of land and water. And the conflict between the United States and Japan became a brutal contest of endurance and strategy. The Battle of Stalingrad marked a crucial shift. Fierce fighting consumed the city, but in the end, German forces were defeated, and from that moment, the tide of war began to turn against them. In North Africa, Allied forces pushed against Axis control. Battles fought across deserts, tested strategy and resilience, and victories here opened new paths, weakening enemy positions and preparing for further advances into Europe. Gradually, the Allies gained strength, coordination improved, resources increased, and confidence grew, each victory building upon the last, pushing back the Axis powers and reclaiming lost ground with determination and sacrifice. Plans were set for a massive invasion of Europe, bringing together forces from multiple nations. The goal was clear: to break the hold of occupation and restore freedom, and the stage was set for one of the most decisive operations in history. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces launched the massive D-Day Normandy landings, storming heavily defended beaches, facing intense resistance, but successfully establishing a crucial foothold in Europe that marked the beginning of Nazi Germany's collapse. Following the invasion, Allied troops pushed steadily through occupied territories, liberating cities and towns. As resistance movements inside Europe grew stronger, and the Axis grip on the continent began to weaken under relentless pressure from multiple directions. By 1945, Germany was surrounded and exhausted, its cities bombed, its army depleted, and its leadership in chaos. As Allied forces closed in from east and west, signaling the final stage of the war in Europe, inside a bunker in Berlin, Adolf Hitler faced inevitable defeat, isolated and desperate, as his regime collapsed around him. And on April 30th, 1945, he died, marking the end of Nazi leadership. On May 8th, 1945, Europe celebrated Victory in Europe Day, as Germany officially surrendered, ending years of brutal conflict on the continent, though the war in the Pacific still continued with full intensity. In the Pacific, the war reached a critical point, leading the United States to make a devastating decision, developing and preparing to use atomic weapons in hopes of forcing a rapid end to the conflict. On August 6, 1945, an atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, causing unprecedented destruction, instantly killing tens of thousands and demonstrating the terrifying power of nuclear warfare to the entire world. 3 days later, another bomb struck Nagasaki, deepening devastation and leaving Japan with no viable option but to consider surrender, as the scale of destruction surpassed all previous warfare in human history. Facing overwhelming destruction and continued pressure, Japan formally surrendered on August 15, 1945, bringing an official end to World War II and closing the deadliest chapter in modern human history. The war ended, but the world it left behind was transformed forever. With new powers rising, old systems collapsing, and humanity stepping into an uncertain future shaped by fear, innovation, and a renewed determination to prevent such destruction. Again, World War II became the largest and most destructive conflict in human history, spreading across continents and oceans, involving countless nations, and reshaping political boundaries, economies, and societies in ways that still influence the modern world and global order today. Millions of lives were lost, cities were reduced to rubble, and families were torn apart, as both soldiers and civilians suffered unimaginable hardships, reminding humanity that war's greatest price is always paid in human suffering, not in territory gained or lost. After the war, old empires collapsed and new superpowers emerged, especially the United States and the Soviet Union, shaping a new global balance that defined politics, alliances, and tensions for decades to come. The war taught painful but necessary lessons about extremism, unchecked power, and the failure of diplomacy, showing that silence in the face of aggression can lead to catastrophe, and that unity is essential to preserve peace in a divided world. Even today, the echoes of World War II remain in global institutions, borders, and international laws, reminding us that peace is fragile and must be protected through cooperation, understanding, and the constant effort to prevent history from repeating its darkest chapters. Avoiding world wars requires strong diplomacy, open communication, and respect for international law. Nations must solve disputes through negotiation instead of force, while organizations like the United Nations help mediate conflicts early. Reducing arms races, especially nuclear weapons, lowers escalation risks. Building trust through trade, cultural exchange, and cooperation makes war less likely and peace more stable globally. Another key factor is responsible leadership in informed societies. Governments must avoid nationalism-driven decisions that escalate tensions while promoting education about the real cost of war. Early warning systems, conflict resolution channels, and global partnerships help prevent small crises from growing. When nations value human life over pride, history can avoid repeating its darkest, most destructive chapters. Peace also depends on economic stability and fairness among nations. When poverty, inequality, and exploitation increase, tensions rise and conflict becomes more likely. Supporting development, ensuring fair trade, and helping weaker nations grow reduces desperation and resentment. A balanced world order, built on justice and cooperation, strengthens long-term global peace.